Lowest depths of misery. Oh man, this is getting deep.
Zendaya, you are about to take Vanity Fair's Proust questionnaire. You will be asked 35 questions in rapid succession in order to reveal your true nature.
Oh, geez.
Once a question has been read out, you will have 5 seconds to answer before we move on. Once we have completed all 35 questions, you will have a chance to reflect on and even correct your answers.
All right. Sounds scary.
Yay! As you're walking away, Zendaya. As you're walking away. Perfect. Yes.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
I would say doing what I love, and doing it with people that I love.
I've really faltered between being my best self to being my laziest self. And so I'd have to say the first couple months of the pandemic was the first time I was exercising regularly. I was really leaning into Yara. And so now I'm at a point in which I have to kind of reinstate everything that I did at the top of the pandemic because a lot has dropped off. But I mean, I feel like I've gotten quite a bit done. I finally got my license after 21 years of living.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm excited to be doing that. My 17-year-old brother was driving me around. I have to really shout Shahidi out because he really helped me practice.
Did you pass on the first try?
I did.
Good.
But given I did have 21 years to prep.
Now, this quote here, we don't integrate, we recreate. It's something that you wrote down in your journal many, many years ago. It's something that you still have in your IG bio at this very moment.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, going back to the history nerd in me, it really started from just kind of continuing to double down on my understanding of like the Black freedom movements and civil rights movements. And you know, one era that we don't talk about often is this Reconstruction era, post-Civil War. We were rebuilding society. We had more Black senators than ever before, and it felt like society was building up. And then just like that, it felt like every institutional barrier went right back up again. And the one thing that I'd taken away from continuing to understand that era better was that nothing had actually shifted in the fabric of American society. They had merely allowed us into these rooms, but the rooms didn't change. The way the spaces were configured didn't change. The aims of these structures didn't change. And that's why it was so easy to just kind of backpedal and continue to use these systematic barriers of entry. And so I think after learning about that and then seeing the ways it felt so applicable to our own lives, I mean, being somebody where, you know, I come from a family and we come from communities where we're oftentimes the only one of something in a room. And I think we can speak to the experiences of being in a room where they've made space for you to belong versus being in a room in which your access is always kind of dangling. You never know if you actually genuinely have space here. And so I think that's what really kind of made me think about the sentiment altogether. And then the recreation part was really about looking at the future, looking at my peers, looking at what incredible organizers are doing. We're starting to genuinely reimagine what futures can look like, and even questioning systems that were deemed so normal. If we look at even this past summer and the questioning of the policing
that I care about.
What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
Ooh, I like to think I don't deplore anything about myself. I mean, there's things I can improve on, like my vocabulary, but other than that, I don't hate anything.
Even though no one prompted her, she was just talking about the importance of global solidarity. You know, these borders are a facade, and I think oftentimes used to keep us separate when we're oftentimes fighting the same injustices. I mean, I think even when I spoke on the situation right now, when I speak about it, it is an indictment of governments and not people. It's an indictment of the US as inherently involved in these issues. I feel like what's happening there is a US issue as one of the main catalysts for the injustices and inequities. And so the importance for me to speak on it and try and make it accessible is to ensure that the conversation doesn't feel taboo, to ensure that we can have this conversation in a humane way. We're not trying to neglect anybody's traumas who are living in that area, but we are focusing on the systematic oppression of Palestinians that are happening in ways that I think many Black and brown folks can relate to, and in many ways that we can't relate to because there are unprecedented things happening. And so to be able to use our global solidarity is so important. And matter of fact, one thing that Dr. Davis had reminded me of was that Palestinian organizers were some of the first to offer their solidarity to Black Lives Matter organizers. So that was really impactful to think about the ways in which we can continue to help each other, because when we're looking for equity, it's not just within a US context. I mean, I think even a great example that's a little peripheral to this is thinking about this pandemic and thinking about as much as I am grateful for the continued efforts of vaccinations here, the ways in which the US has set up the world globally, particularly places that belong to our global brothers and sisters that are brown and Black, to not have access.
Right.
If you're thinking about what's happening in India right now, there's no reason they should be a main manufacturer of vaccines and not have the systems in place, because we're over here in the US and England and these European states taking it all. And so I say that just to say, it's been important to me, as much as I definitely still have to learn, to continue to look at what matters to me and then figure out why or how it has global repercussions, because I think it changes how you do the work and it changes the methods by which we feel like it's effective to call out and to collaborate with these governments and other forces.
Thank you so much for that. That was also so potent and strong. So thank you. Now, sharp turn here. Let's talk about what is on your shoulders right now. We see visually the 3 stripes, and the 3 stripes is an important brand to you because not only do you have a collaboration with them right now that's been, maybe 2 years in the works, but it's maybe been a lifetime in the works, because the shell toes were a shoe that you've worn on many occasions throughout your life. Why is this so important to you to have a collaboration with a legendary brand like the 3 Stripes?
Oh, well, I mean, going back to what you said, I grew up in Adidas. I remember my first big purchase was a pair of Adidas high tops when I was traveling. But my Bubba wears shell toes on every occasion. I've seen him garden in them, seen him go to red carpet events, seen him walk out of the ocean in a pair of shell toes. But they've always been meaningful to us, whether it be a symbol of the places we've gone or just something that felt like it connected us as a family in terms of our personal style. And I've also been obsessed with tracksuits. I've often talked about how clothes are political, but I know my tracksuits help me take up space. I'm always in new spaces, and as confident as I may seem to some, I'm perpetually unsure of myself. And so oftentimes I wear loud things because it helps me lay claim to the places I'm in. And so my confidence will then match my outfit because it just has to. And so when approaching this Adidas collaboration, I think what was great was that I had some great people help usher me in and be able to ground this collaboration in the sentiments that were important to me. Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier of talking about global community and how do I anchor this in global community in quite literal ways and in more figurative ways. And then talk about just the vintage silhouettes that I love. Adidas as a brand has such an interesting history. And so it was such a fun opportunity to combine Adidas's own history with my own history and heritage.
Love that. Couple more. Great. And Zendaya right down here? Zendaya. Zendaya, just here right there. And as you're walking away, Zendaya, as you're walking away. Perfect. Yes.
Yara in the middle. Yara in the front. Right here, Yara. Yara down here. There you go. Yara right there. Beautiful. Hold that right there. Gorgeous, Yara. Yara right down here. Yara, quick one through. Right in the middle, Yara. Yara, one more way over here. Over the shoulder, Yara.